Dead Boy Detectives moving forward at HBO Max. After a slew of cancellations of HBO Max originals by Warner Bros. Discovery, recently ordered Dead Boy Detectives is safe and moving forward at the streamer. Based on the characters created for DC by Neil Gaiman and Matt Wagner, Dead Boy Detectives was given an 8-episode series order back in April. The pilot episode of the series, written by Steve Yockey and directed by Lee Toland Krieger, was filmed between December 2021 and January 2022. Dead Boy Detectives has officially begun the preparation as of last week and will begin production in November. As per the current schedule, Dead Boy Detectives will begin filming on November 7, 2022, in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and will wrap on March 20, 2023. The series will explore loss, grief, and death through the lens of Edwin Payne and Charles Rowland, two dead British teenagers, and their very alive friend, Crystal Palace. All the three leading characters have been already introduced in the 4th episode of Doom Patrol Season 3, but those actors are not reprising their roles in the upcoming HBO Max series. George Rickstrew and Jaden Reverie have been cast as Dead Boy Detectives Edwin Payne and Charles Rowland, respectively, and Cassius Nelson is playing Crystal Palace. However, Ruth Connell from Doom Patrol is reprising her role as the night nurse. The series also stars Brianna Kuoko as Jenny the Butcher, Yu Kitamura as Nico, Alexander Calvert as Thomas the Cat King, and Jen Leon as Esther. Steve Yockey and Beth Schwartz are the co-showrunners as well as executive producers. Jeremy Carver, Greg Berlanti, and Sarah Schechter of Berlanti Productions also serve as executive producers. WBD recently cancelled a bunch of HBO Max originals, including DC's Batgirl, which was already filmed, Raised by Wolves after Season 2, Made for Love, Scoob, Holiday Haunt, Close Enough, and a few others. House of the Dragon is a worthy successor to HBO's Iron Throne. House of the Dragon, the much-anticipated prequel spin-off to Game of Thrones from series author George R.R. Martin, Hollywood screenwriter Ryan Condal, and got Alan Miguel Sapochnik, who directed several classic episodes including The Battle of the Bastards, recounts the unions forged and terminated in House Targaryen roughly 200 years before Daenerys walks through fire to emerge as the Mother of Dragons. Standing in for Daenerys here is Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, played by both Millie Alcock and Emma Darcy. There's a major time jump in episode 6, but more on that a bit later. As the daughter of the king, she's enjoying her life at the top of the wheel until King's Landing is thrown into chaos by the death of her brother. Left without a male heir, her father has no choice but to name Rhaenyra the future protector of the realm. That is until 2 years later when a Targaryen prince is born, leading to a conflict known in Westeros history as the Dance of Dragons. Set against the backdrop of a Targaryen civil war, HBO's House of the Dragon reveals how Dany's ancestors used their dragons to achieve dominion over the 7 kingdoms of Westeros, and how misogyny led to their ruination. But House of the Dragon has Hodder-sized big boots to fill. So how does it compare to Game of Thrones? After watching 6 out of the inaugural season's 10 episodes, we can assure that most Game of Thrones fans, particularly those who were die-hard loyalists of their Khaleesi, will relish their time back in this ferocious medieval fantasy world. As for those viewers who have never heard of the Baratheons, the Martells, or the Greyjoys, House of the Dragon provides a solid stepping stone for the 8-season tentpole show while holding its own as a separate, unique story. Both the similarities it shares with Game of Thrones and the differences that set it apart make House of the Dragon a genre prequel with a ton of potential, even if the first season feels rushed at times. The most obvious departure House of the Dragon makes from its predecessor is that it hones its political action on one family, the Targaryens. Say goodbye to memoizing 60 names at the jump. Farewell to having to meticulously follow along with every birth, death, and marriage across multiple families and generations, as was necessary with Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon's tighter focus means viewers don't have to do as much homework to absorb the full scope of the political drama. The plight of the Starks is dearly missed, but the Targaryens, and, as Alicent Hightower cheekily puts it, their queer customs, provide viewers with more than enough spectacle to stay entertained. Standouts include scene stealer Millie Alcock, who plays the teenage version of Rhaenyra, and Emma Darcy, who comes in as late 20-something Rhaenyra. Both do a magnificent job handling the same protagonist with subtle intensity and nuance. Our princess is a haughty firecracker, yes, but she is also deeply insecure about her reception in King's Landing, as both a girl and as someone grieving the loss of a mother and a friend. Matt Smith is great, as always, as the detestable Prince Daemon Targaryen, but the series' second scene stealer is Paddy Considine, who plays King Viserys I Targaryen. Considine does a superb job of handling a complex character, making him simultaneously unlikable and sympathetic. Viserys genuinely grieves his first wife, loves his second wife, loves his daughter, and isn't an entirely unreasonable leader, either. Just like in Game of Thrones, the CGI is absolutely breathtaking, frankly, a must if we're going to see dragons every single episode. Along with the special effect, astounding prosthetics, makeup, and platinum blonde wigs make this dark fairy tale easy to escape into. But the biggest advantage House of the Dragon has over Game of Thrones is that most of the Targaryen history has already been documented by George R.R. Martin, not only in the A Song of Ice and Fire original books but also in his Fire and Blood historical prequels. With the source material complete and Martin back in the mix after being pushed aside in GOT's final seasons, there are fewer chances for another tragedy. Kleo Netflix series settling an old score. The series starts in East Berlin in 1987, where Kleo can be heard saying "always ready." It was a time when Berlin was divided by a wall into two parts, West and East Berlin. There were secret operations carried out between the two countries, and Kleo was East Berlin's unofficial agent assassin. She was sent to West Berlin to kill a man and procure some keys. This was her 10th operation. Sven, a man from West Berlin, became the witness of her operation, and he made a sketch of her and gave it to the authorities. He followed her tracks and knew that she was onto something big. Kleo's lover comrade Andy Wolf was also serving in the Ministry for State Security of East Berlin. Kleo was pregnant, and they both were very happy and excited as they were expecting a baby girl. Sven created problems for Kleo as the sketch was reported to Lieutenant Ludwig Zorek of East Berlin. To hide the details about their operation, Kleo was punished with life imprisonment. In jail, a fight broke out, and Kleo lost her child and discovered that she could never become a mother again. Devastated by the loss of her child, she decided to take revenge on all the people responsible for sending her to jail. The wall dividing East and West Berlin was fallen after reforms came in Europe, and as a result, all the political prisoners were released, including Kleo. Hence, her hunt began for the culprits who destroyed her life and killed her baby. The creators have tried to show different versions of Kleo, like the assassin Kleo, heartbroken Kleo, and many other Kleo. We can say that 50 Shades of Kleo could also have been an apt title. It has a political backdrop to it as well. Driven by a strong female lead, Kleo is everything that one could ask for from an action thriller series. With a total of 9 episodes, this German series is here to take you on a journey of an ex-assassin whose life was ruined by the higher officials. Revenge forms the core of Kleo's life. Jella Hosser played the powerful role of Kleo, and her performance is the main attraction of the series. The plot of Kleo has trapped the journey of the Stasi assassin in a brutal yet sensitive manner. Just like another spy film, Kleo has missions and political secrets. What makes the series different from the others of the same genre is that the vulnerabilities and the emotional state of the character have been fully explored. She can be seen killing someone and then enjoying her life as if nothing happened. Next, she'll be seen crying, longing for her lost baby, and desperate to get her mother's love. Kleo as a character has so many colors to it. She is an assassin and gets punished for the same as her identity was out in the world. Her own grandpa, who was also in the Ministry of State Security of East Berlin, didn't support her. She lost her child, her lover, and then all she wanted was revenge. The transition in her character isn't smooth, as it took a lot for her to become what she is now. The 9 episodes show her mourning for her lost baby and taking revenge for the same from the very people responsible for it. The series won't bore the audience as it has been written and shot in a very captivating manner. Fullmetal Alchemist: The Revenge of Scar. Just unnecessary cosplay. Fullmetal Alchemist: The Revenge of the Scar is the second installment to its predecessor Fullmetal Alchemist, released in 2017. It is a story about a mysterious figure belonging seeking revenge against the state alchemists because of the tragedies during the war, leaving the youngest state alchemist in the history of Amestris, Edward Ulrich, and his brother Alphonse vulnerable to an attack along with any others. The movie is a testimony to why popular anime adapted from manga shouldn't be brought to live action. The story is ambitious enough that imagines a fantasy world with a plot that as a subject matter requires the setting to deliver the same authentic look that the anime manga delivers. So, when the anime has already done the adaptation part well, one would simply expect the live-action movie at the very least, to deliver a satisfactory experience. There is no shame in admitting that some of the things just work well when they are animated, and that is something this movie didn't take into account. It is hard to take things seriously when everybody just feels like cosplaying the characters from the manga, with abilities out of the world. When you have a certain image of the character already predetermined, the comparison is inevitable. However, the movie doesn't help itself either. Everything about it just feels very casual, from the fights to the dialogues. The plot is too raw, with everlasting distractions, with a side plot that constantly thrives in driving you away from the important things happening. The interconnectivity of both the stories is executed in such a way that it results in a weird fusion that is directly aimed at involving more characters in the threshold, since they release the one-dimensional angle of the revenge story of Scar, with weirdly enough Edward still eating up the chunk of important time with his silly side quests. More importantly, the flashbacks that incite us about Scar's motivation and intent behind his rage are very much taken for granted, as they fit into the narrative in a very linear format, usually involving a certain action that triggers these overwhelming emotions within him. The more the movie drags on, the less interesting the fights involving the power of alchemy get. At first, one might be interested in the use of powers in this particular realm, but they offer very little creativity-wise. There was pretty less focus on the variability of the range of attack, and I couldn't help but fathom the unreliable power scaling within the movie. The character of Scar is inevitable at first, but just becomes less of a threat artillery-wise. The first impression of Scar is not the last impression you have of him, and while it can be good in certain aspects as you start to know more about him, he just loses credibility as a powerful opponent. In conclusion, if you are interested in knowing the story, you should read the source, rather than watching this movie, because it's inevitable that you start losing interest in it.